It has been reported that the Russians are struggling, but I am sure that the Russians could have predicted that they would struggle with land battles alone even before they started. Considering the actual strength of its forces, it is no wonder that President Putin has repeatedly said that he has no intention of invading. Why did Putin launch an invasion he couldn't win? On February 28, ceasefire talks will be held in Belarus. Didn't the coverage of the Russian invasion crisis that began in the US media at the end of November give the impression of Russia, a military power, versus Ukraine, a weak military power? This is the kind of map you must have been seeing in the press and other media. What was reported was that the number of Russian troops on the border, 100,000, would be further strengthened. However, there was not much information about the strength of the Ukrainian army. Ukraine and Russia have been embroiled in a conflict in the Donbas region for 8 years. Both countries have powerful armies. This is the actual strength of the Ukrainian army.
Господин президент сказал, там Россия проводит учения, сосредоточила группировку большую. А разве Украина не сосредоточила? Те же самые 100 или 125 тысяч человек на Донбассе там сосредоточено.
This is what the published military forces of the two countries looked like at the beginning of January 2022. It is the Russian military that has the upper hand, but if NATO forces were to join the Ukrainian military, it would look like this. It has about 3,912,000 soldiers, or nearly 7 million if you include the reserves. If you add the US military to this, it becomes a huge army of about 10 million soldiers. The US and NATO define one country, Russia, as an enemy. The Warsaw Pact organization of the former Soviet era is no more. What does this mean for NATO's continued expansion? For Russia, the only number that indicates that it can fight evenly against NATO will be the number of nuclear warheads. How dangerous is this for the world? The global security threats that Russia complains about do indeed exist. President Putin once responded when asked by a reporter.
Следующий шаг – это Украина. Ее нужно принять в НАТО. Вот послушайте, что я скажу, внимательно. Представим себе, что Украина является членом НАТО. И напичкана оружием, стоят современные ударные системы, так же, как в Польше и в Румынии. Кто помешает? Нам что, воевать с блоком НАТО? Ну, кто-нибудь об этом хоть что-нибудь подумал? Похоже, что нет.
An invasion would result in the imposition of severe economic sanctions and a loss of international credibility. To invade knowing this would be suicidal for Russia and for President Putin. By the end of January, the actual troop strength of the two armies became roughly clear. The Russians still have the upper hand, but in terms of ground troops, it's a close match. In fact, neither US nor NATO forces will move. Still, land combat alone is not enough for the Russian military to control and occupy major cities now. After all, no rational reason can be found for the decision to invade this time. The airstrikes on the first day of the invasion were mainly on airports and military facilities. Considering the size of Ukraine's air force, it would not be a lie to say that the Russian military has secured air control. In spite of this, they are still struggling.
Кто бы ни пытался помешать нам, а тем более создать угрозы для нашей страны, для нашего народа, должны знать, что ответ России будет незамедлительным и приведет вас к таким последствиям, с которыми вы в своей истории еще никогда не сталкивались.
It appears that the Russian military's attack was not as thorough as President Putin's fiery words and grim expression. Was it a frontline decision, or was there a strategic intent? If the Russian troops are withdrawn, President Zelensky will be a hero of national salvation as the democratically elected president of Eastern Europe who defended his country without the help of the US or NATO. As a result of the ceasefire talks, both sides decided to bring back the terms and conditions for consideration. How will history evaluate President Putin? Finally, President Trump said in a speech to CPAC on February 26, after the war had begun.
Yesterday, reporters asked me if I thought President Putin was smart. I said, of course he's smart, to which I was greeted with, oh, that's such a terrible thing to say. I'd like to tell the truth, yes, he's smart. The NATO nations, and indeed the world, as he looks over what's happening strategically with no repercussions or threats whatsoever, they're not so smart. They're looking the opposite of smart. If you take over Ukraine, we're going to sanction you, they say. Sanction? Well, that's a pretty weak statement. Putin is saying, oh, they're going to sanction me. They sanctioned me for the last 25 years. You mean I can take over a whole country and they're going to sanction me? You mean they're not going to blow us to pieces, at least psychologically? The problem is not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart, but the real problem is that our leaders are dumb. Dumb. So dumb. And they so far allowed him to get away with this travesty and assault on humanity. That's what it is. This is an assault on humanity. So sad.